Brothers and sisters, good evening. And we are welcome to day 2. I would like to ask, how many of us yesterday slept with the consciousness of death? We spoke lots about death yesterday. And perhaps returning home, some of us were frightened. How many slept and had the consciousness that they could sleep and not wake up to see today? Yeah, it's always good to have that consciousness. Do not take life for granted. Do not think that there is a guarantee that the moment you go to sleep, you wake to see the next day. There is no guarantee. So always when you go to sleep, just tell yourself it could be your last sleep. It could be your last. And that is all what we have been struggling to do all this while. To prepare ourselves. Because yesterday, I'm trying to go back to what we said to remind ourselves. We said our identity is holiness. No Christian who is not holy can say he or she has an identity. Our identity is holiness. And that holiness is leading us to one mission, to one purpose. And that purpose is happiness. And where is that happiness? In heaven. So every day, whatever you do, in your thoughts, in your actions, ask yourself, this thing I am doing now, is it leading me to heaven? Is this thing leading me to heaven? If I were to die now, would I go to heaven? That is what you should be asking yourself. And the moment you realize that whatever you are doing would not take you to heaven, you should take a U-turn. Because our destination is heaven. Happiness. That is what we want. And so whatever we are doing, whatever choices we make in life, should be able to lead us to that goal. That was what we said yesterday. Today we'll be looking at some of those difficulties. Like we said yesterday, to be a Christian is not easy at all. If you ever thought to be a Christian was simple, then you missed it. I remember while we were in the seminary, we were told, if you know you will not be able to become a priest, now that you are a seminarian, better back out. Because once hands have been laid on you, there is no turning back. You just have to live the life. To be a Christian is not easy at all. It is not easy. Jesus did not make an advert for Christianity and deceive us. Like you find adverts on television. They tell you every good thing that the product has to offer. They will not tell you the bad side of it. But when Jesus was making an advert for Christianity, he was very clear. Whoever wants to follow me must be ready to carry his cross every day and follow me. He did not say if you want to be a Christian, it will be simple. No. It is difficult to be a Christian. And so today, beloved, we'll be looking at some of those difficulties, some of those things that stand between us and that happiness that we are looking for. Each one of you seated here this evening, you did not just come because there is some show. I'm not an actor. I'm not a movie star. We are not performing theater here. You came because you are looking for heaven. That is why you are here. You want to listen to these words, and these words should be able to lead you to heaven. That is why you have left everything to be here. And I know deep in each one of us, we desire heaven. We want to go to heaven. Each one of us seated here. That is why we became Christians in the first place. That is why we make the daily struggles. And so it will be very terrible after all these struggles, then we find ourselves in hell. So we are here today to look at some of those things that stand between us and our heaven. What are those difficulties? And we have to surmount these difficulties in order to get to that heaven, that happiness that we are looking for. These things today, I decided to call them some tendencies or some philosophies that the world offers us. We remember we had said we are talking about the general theme, what it means to be a Christian in these modern times, this digital age. And so it is not easy because the world offers us different kinds of philosophies, different kinds of things. When we sing and we are in church, oh, how beautiful it is. Like Peter, we can tell the Lord, oh, Master, how good it is for us to be here. We can build 3 tents and stay here. It is beautiful when we are in church. But the challenge and the reality is when you get out of the church doors to put that life in practice. When we are in church here, it's easy. You can offer each other sign of peace. It's easy. Peace, oh, sister. Peace, oh, peace. But when you get home, to put that peace with your neighbor, okay, that is when the challenge comes. So it is not just easy to say we are Christians. Christians in church is fine. But out of the church doors, that is where the challenge meets us. And so what are some of those things that meet us the moment we get out of the church doors? Those challenges. The first is what we call relativism. Relativism is a philosophy. And this philosophy thinks that everything is true depending on how I see it. Truth is not what is absolute. There is nothing about what God has said. It is how I see it. So if for me this thing is black, it's black. That is according to me. That is a relativist. And so they deny everything that the church says. No, according to me, I think, you start getting those words. According to me, I think if I were the one. That is a relativist. They see everything according to their own point of view. And even in matters of faith and doctrine, they want to look at it according to how they see it and according to how they feel. I give an example. For a relativist, as I said, things according to how they see it. Good is good according to me, not according to what the church has said. And so if you tell somebody to forgive, a relativist will ask, but why should I forgive? How much good has she done to me that I should forgive her for what she has done? And so because I do not see what good she has done to merit forgiveness, I will not forgive. Forget about what the church says. God can stay with his forgiveness for all he cares. The church can preach forgiveness from today till tomorrow and next 50 years. And that is why there are many Christians seated in church. We preach forgiveness all the time, and they are still able to get out of church and go home and never forgive. Relativism. The church can say all what they care to say. I have made up my mind. As for me, I will not forgive, full stop. Relativism. That is one of the doctrines that meets us in the face and stands as a challenge to our Christianity. We come to church, we listen to all the beautiful homilies, but when we go out, relativism. Truth is truth according to how I see it. And so I will do it according to how I see it and according to how I think it's true. That is the first one that meets us. Again, another example with relativists. Concepts have changed. Beautiful concepts that the church has given to us have lost their meaning and value. Two of such concepts. One is marriage. Marriage in these modern times has lost its essence and value. People no longer understand. I tell you, people do not understand what it means to marry. What is marriage? Forget about all the ambience and fanfare we see here. They wear the white gown and dance and dance and dance. Marriage is not all about this. Marriage is when you go back home, when all the guests have left you, and then you start living with your spouse. That is when marriage begins. And I tell you, many do not understand what marriage is. Why? Because of what the world gives back to us. We come here and tell you, marriage is about a partnership between husband and wife. It's about accepting one another. It's about being there to support one another, for better, for worse, in riches and in poverty, in sickness and in health, till death. And they say those words here happily. But the moment they go back, there is one little difficulty. I can no longer take it. We better quit. We better quit. I cannot take it. I can't just take it. So I asked, then which was the worse you were talking about? It is for better, for worse. But people do not want worse. And that is why we find marriages have scattered and hit the rocks, and there are many single parents all over the place. Because people are not ready to accept that concept of marriage. Relativism. The moment there is any difficulty, we are just ready to tear those papers. Let us just forget, go your way, I go my way. And the second concept is the concept of the family. Again, the world has given us a different concept and mentality of what the family is. And so people have lost hold of what the family is. The church teaches, and we have Family Sunday. We talk about the beauty of family. But unfortunately, there are still many children who are growing without that beauty of living together in a family with their parents, father and mother. And like I say, it is because of what the world offers. You listen to the beautiful homilies in church, all the beautiful doctrine. The moment you go out, your friend tells you, and they say it nicely, what are you still doing there? If I were the one, oh, trust me, I would have gone. I would have gone. And that is how many live the beautiful marriages that they would have persevered in to make it work. Relativism. The second is pragmatism. Pragmatism. It's another philosophy. And according to pragmatists, something is true, something is good in as much as it is practical. So if it is not practical, push it aside. We don't want theories. A pragmatist wants to see things happen practically. And so when it is not feasible, then they will not do it. That is what the world pushes. And so Christians go out, they want to put their Christianity into practice. But when it is difficult to practice it, pragmatists will tell you, and then why are you wasting your time? Push it off. I give an example. The church teaches and tells us that condoms are not good and will never be good. That is what the church says. And we follow what the church says. We are Christians. We are talking now, there are some here who are doctors and like, Father, we give condoms because, at the end of the day. And they say they are Christians who, despite what the church says, they go back and they do the opposite. The church has said condoms should never be used. In marriage, never. Out of marriage is even not a question to talk about. Why should you be using condoms out of marriage? It means you want to steal and you want a door to be open for you to steal. If you are not married, why indulge in sex? And so because you think this spouse is not your own, you want something to protect you. If it is your spouse, why are you afraid? Give in wholeheartedly. And the consequence that comes, you accept it. But because you want to play a football match, but you are afraid that you may have an injury, you decide to steal. And that is why the church says, there is no condom. Do not use condoms. But the pragmatist tells you it is difficult. This is a situation in which we find ourselves. How do we do it? And I say there are many Christians who go out, who know the doctrine, but they are able not to withstand because they do not see it practical. There was a question that came up. What about couples who are married? Yes. One of them has contracted HIV and is positive. Now, what happens? These are pragmatists asking the church. What happens now? These are married people and they have to indulge in the conjugal act, and one of them is HIV positive. And you say we should not use condoms. So how shall we do now in this kind of a case? The church says no condoms. HIV or no HIV, no condoms. Pragmatists say, but it is not practical. Now this person is HIV positive. If I go in, I will contract if I'm the partner who is not positive. So what do we do? And the church says there can still be abstinence even in marriage. And that is why even in marriage there is rape. If you do not know now, even in marriage there is rape. Do not say she's my wife, therefore she must anytime I want. No. It is not because it is your wife anytime you want. There must be dialogue. And so when one partner is not ready, the partner is not ready. Wait until the partner is ready. If you force, you have raped even in marriage. So there must be dialogue. And so the church says you can still abstain even within the context of marriage. But pragmatists will say it is not possible. And that is why I tell you, because of pragmatism, even our own Christian Catholic doctors go to their hospitals and distribute condoms to people who can. Because they do not think that people can manage without the use of condoms. Pragmatist. Things must be practical. And when it is not practical, then it cannot go. And that is how our faith has died, because of pragmatism. The next one is secularism. Forget about all the isms. They are just the isms coming. The next one is secularism. And what is secularism? It denies anything that has to do with religious faith. Anything that has to do with God. Push it aside. Let people just be. Secular world. Anything that has to do with religion, push it away. Anything that has to do with faith, morals, push it away. Let people just be. They do not want anything that is binding to conscience. That is secularism. In the country where I come from, they tell you that religious studies or religious knowledge is out of use. So if you want to apply for any job, you should have 2 advanced level subjects, as they call it, excluding religious knowledge. Push this thing aside, knowledge of God. What is it for? And so you go to school, you teach religion. Even the students know religion is not useful. So the moment the priest comes into class, plays religion, they are looking for the next door to disappear. Religion has no use. Religion has no use. So they are gradually pushing away religion. And in some public offices, they tell you, even if you are a Catholic Christian, please, avoid all these crucifixes we see that people hang. No. Get them off. Secularism. And I tell you, God's good people, some of our children hear about God only when they come to church. The moment they go home, there is nothing about God. And that is why it is difficult for those children to understand why is Father insisting about this? Because the only time they get to hear about God is when they are in church. The moment they go out of church, God is finished, God is dead. Secularism. Parents do not pray. Families do not bother anymore. They do not even send children to Catholic schools. And that is how the world wants it. Secularism. You also see it from the television screens. The moment you switch on your television screen, go to music. There is no music you will not find naked women dancing. That is what attracts. So if you're a musician and you want to sell, get naked women to dance. If you find women who dance in a particular clip and they have long clothes, must have shift the thing. Look for the next one. Let's look for appetizing things. So musicians already know. And the unfortunate thing is they always use the women. So you find men who will be well-dressed dancing. The women are all in half skirts and naked bodies dancing. You ask why? It is simple. Men are easily aroused just by sight. Just by sight, a man is aroused. So once a woman dances naked, what happens? 1 billion men who have seen that video are already sexually aroused. They start looking for a way to satisfy that appetite that has been arisen. And that is how the world wants it. And the more people who look at it, the more appetite is risen, and the more people want to satisfy that appetite. And that is why the musicians know. So even if you do not sing well, get a few naked women to dance, and people will watch you. Adverts. Even little adverts, just to tell you how beautiful this bottled water is. They will use a woman who is in a bikini. How does bikini concern drinking water? But that is how the world wants it. Secular. Even music. Our children these days do not even know how to sing gospel songs anymore. Tell them to tell you the names of the 12 apostles. Oh, come on, 12 apostles, who were they? But tell them to name you some movie stars. They will ask you, Father, do you want 100 of them or 50? I can name from start to finish. Secular. And that is how it is. And even back in our schools, I tell you, our children have lost their values because of secularism. No more religion, no more faith. Push God aside. Live your life as you want it. Secularism. And I tell you, that is the challenge that we face. And we must fight secularism. If we do not, I tell you, these beautiful gifts that God has given you of these children, you will regret it just a few years after when you look at them. The world is impacting them with many things that are contrary to the faith. And even when they go back to school, it is also difficult because they do not even see the value of religion or God. Secularism. Even in dressing. I remember one mom was asking yesterday about dressing. Fashion. That is what the world offers, secularism. Sometimes you do not even know, but secularism imposes on us what they want us to eat, what they want us to drink, what they want us to wear. Adverts, fashion. You go to the market, you want to buy good clothes, you don't see any anymore. All the clothes, either you find a movie star that has been written behind, or that is what they want. It is what they offer us. And unfortunately, our young brothers and sisters are those who fall prey. So even when they go to the market to buy, all what they see is what has been offered to them. And at the end, they buy those things because they want to copy and imitate the stars. And then they make a mistake. They do not know when they are going to church and when they are going to a nightclub. And that is why you find all of them still coming with those very clothes back to church, thinking that they are moving to a nightclub. That is just what the world offers to us. Secularism. And so we must be very careful what we watch, what we buy. We must be able to make that distinction. The next is the internet and the social media. That is another challenge to our Christian faith. Internet and social media. It is said that everything comes with a blessing, but at the same time, there is also a curse. Internet and social media have done so much. We can connect with people in different parts of the world within the twinkle of an eye. But at the same time, the internet and social media have destroyed the Christian faith. A few months ago, there was a video of the Holy Father that went viral. And the Pope was talking about the faith, how we should love one another and forget about our differences. He even gave the example of Joseph and his brothers, how they went to Egypt to buy food, and behold, they met their brother, how they reconciled and embraced. And the person who was doing the translation, because the Pope was speaking in Italian, the translation was 300% off topic. What was he writing there? The Pope was saying, I want to tell you, brothers and sisters, do not believe in the Catholic Church. Myself, I am an antichrist. And the Catholic Church is antichrist. I've been looking for this opportunity to tell you this, but I did not have the opportunity. Listen to me now. I tell you, the Catholic Church is fake and this and this and this. And I tell you, many people who saw were marveled. And perhaps, unfortunately, some Catholic Christians would have believed it. Unfortunately, some would have believed. And what is the target? You should know very well that the Catholic Church is under attack. That should not be something which is strange or new to you. The Catholic Church is under attack. So any little thing, any opportunity that people would have to sabotage the Catholic Church, they will do it. And so the moment you get something like that, hey, just tell yourself, first rule, number one, people hate the Catholic Church. For whatever reason, it's their personal business. So whatever you see, take it with a pinch of salt. Do not just go and take it for gospel truth. And that is how they want to sabotage the church. And others started writing comments. You need to go under the comments. We have said this thing before. Whoever is going to the Catholic Church, woe to them. That is just the evil church on earth. Oh, Catholic Christians. And then if you were a Catholic and you saw that, you will bend your head in shame. Because you'll be afraid that you will be stoned. How many Catholic Christians are bold enough to move when you see those kinds of challenges? One that has hit the church so hard and is still hitting the church is the crisis that is currently going on. Sexual abuse. And then you move, you want to bend your head in shame because you feel like, what is the point talking again about Catholicism? Why should I be a Catholic? Why should I be proud to be a Catholic? But be careful. True, situations like that would have happened, but they will not be as true as the media pushes it to us. The social media will want you to see things that they want you to see. And they can exaggerate facts just because they want to sabotage. And so you have to be very careful with social media and with the internet. Those things have come to bring down our Catholic faith to zero. And so you have to be very careful. Because whatever you take from the social media, be careful, it can bring your faith down to zero. The next thing that also stands to destroy our Christian faith is individualism. Individualism. Many Christians, many, are living as individuals. Do not mind because we are gathered here, seated here as a community, and we sing and let us praise the Lord and this and that. Like I say, the challenge is always when you go back home. How many of us in our communities live as brothers and sisters? If we have not even been able to live as a community in one family, family members who do not even talk to one another, what more of a neighbor? Individualism. And that is why if you go back to Holy Scripture, Jesus will always tell us about the good parable of the Good Samaritan. Who is your neighbor? You cannot go to heaven, God's good people, without your neighbor. Whatever you do to the least of these brothers of mine, Jesus says you do it to me. You do not do it to yourself, you do it to him. And so my neighbor is my road to heaven. I like this particular song they're singing in French. Mon chemin pour aller à Dieu, c'est toi. My road to go to heaven is you. And so without you, I cannot go to heaven. Without your neighbor, there is no road to heaven. Because to whom do you do an act of charity? To your neighbor. Who do you forgive? Your neighbor. So if there is no neighbor, you can never do anything. It means there is no way to go to heaven. Unfortunately, like I said, these modern times, there is a lot of individualism. Me, myself, and I alone. My comfort. So long as I get into my house, I eat my food and my kids, and we go to bed, we have eaten, the rest can die. Individualism. And you find Christians who come to church, sing and pray together, go to the same neighborhood. Even when they get out of this church door, beg a neighbor, I beg, could you carry me in your car and, sorry please, no space, full, but the car is empty. Individualism. There are many people with the hurricanes that came, perhaps God spared you this year, you are fine, your neighbor is struggling, you have not as much as even gone to help them carry even a brick to say, oh neighbor, sorry it happened this way, let us support. It happened to them, let them just struggle to see how to help themselves. Individualism. And that individualism has killed our Christian life. The church is insisting about small Christian communities. We must be able to live together, like in the Acts of the Apostles. The first Christians came together. They put everything together. It is by the love that we have for one another that they will know we are Christians. If we do not have that love for one another, then what example do we show to those who are not Christians? If we go back to the era of the persecution of the first Christians, when they took them to the Colosseum, they go and throw them into the lion's den. The lions were very hungry. They keep them hungry. Then they gather the Christians, go and throw them in the lion's den and open, and the lions came out and devoured them. That is how the Christians were massacred. When they were going, they held their hands and they were singing and going. And the emperor asked the people who were with them, he said, see how much they love themselves. Even in death, they hold themselves together to go and die together. Those were the first Christians. Can we have that kind of a challenge now? That we can live together and support one another together? Individualism has eaten us up. We have lost community spirit. We have lost community spirit. And that is the challenge that some churches have used to win over our Christians. We may be laughing at them, but there is also something that we can learn from them which is positive. We come to church. There are some of us here who are not here, who are sick. But we would never know until perhaps when they come back. And they say, hey, Auntie Mona, you have been so missing. Did you travel? I've been sick. I did not know. How would you know? When you do not have concern. There is lack of concern. We are so much individuals and we lack community spirit. And when there is no community spirit, it is very dangerous. We must learn to be together. And that challenge also goes even to us. We, your priests, will also preach to you. The challenge also comes to us. Because some of us live in houses, brothers, and you can go for a whole day without even seeing your brother, and you do not care. And some priests have died in their rooms, living in the same house with other priests, and they did not even know. Terrible thing. You live in a community with people, and you do not even know how the other person woke up. And you are going on, and they only have to discover that Father A had died 3 days ago in his room. It tells a lot. Beloved, we must learn to live together in community. God meant us to live in community because he himself is community. The Trinity is community. The Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, they live in community. When God created Adam, he said he would not be alone. He created Eve so that they could be together. We were meant to live together in community. And so if you have that kind of an individualistic spirit, to be alone, to do my things alone, to live alone, that is a challenge to your Christianity. You cannot succeed to go to heaven without your neighbor. Your road to go to heaven is your neighbor. The next thing that challenges us goes to parents. 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 You have a great role to play because we always say the future of the church are these young people we have. But many parents have lost their role. They have lost their role completely. Let me tell you something. It's not so much about the money you have. It's not so much about the beautiful schools you send the children to. You can send them to the best of schools. You can buy them all the gadgets you want. They need you, and they need your presence, and they need you to help them. But many parents have lost that. And that is why the children grow wayward. Because the only thing they have to learn from either social media or their friends. And their friends will never give them that advice that you can give them. Their friends will never give them that training that you can give them because you want a certain future for them. But many parents have lost contact with their children. Many. It's not just about giving birth to children. Anybody can do that. From 17, you can have a child if you want. But it's about being responsible for them. Responsible parenthood. And many of us, like I said, have lost that. And that is why we find parents who come to church and their kids are not in church. Then I ask the question, till now it still baffles me. Where do those children sleep? Where do they eat? You leave your home, you come to church, the children do not come, and you go back and life goes on normal. Oh goodness, parents, you have lost it. If some of us are who we are today, it's thanks to the parents we had. And God bless them. My father would always go to church, and all of us would accompany him. Because if you don't follow him to church, just look for somewhere else to sleep, not in his house. It was very clear. And he would tell you, big man, if you think you are big enough, go and rent your own apartment. But if you think you are under my roof, you will toe the line and follow my rules. Simple as that. But now there are parents who move and they say, Father, the children are more than us, so we are tired. More than you? Before you gave birth to that child, you were at least 17. Then the child came. So which means before the child is 1, you are 18. 2, you are 19. 3, the child is 20, you should be at least 40. And the child is more than you. Then something is wrong somewhere. Parents, we have lost that responsibility over our kids. And then the way the things also, the laws of the state will also say, no, don't beat them or pamper them. Don't touch them. So the children have also known that, so they don't beat us. So they are very free. I tell you, in Africa where I come from, we are beaten and flogged. No, you told them, no, you are beaten and flogged. Because even the Bible says you spare the rod and spoil the child. So they beat us. They don't say, no, this thing, don't beat. So the children even know. I'll go to school, my teacher wants to talk. I say, teacher, shut up. Come on. You don't talk carelessly to your teacher. But the children have grown. The laws of the state say, don't beat us. So, mommy, you said I should clean. I will not clean. You will not beat me. Then the mom will only come, oh, Junior, why did you not clean? You are hurting me. Oh, come on. It's terrible. And I say, parents, you have so much to do that you have not yet begun doing. That is your responsibility. Pull them along with you. Because if you do not help them at this tender age, don't think because she's just here lying. There is much that is entering her head and her ears, though she's lying here. Even much more than some of us. And I tell you that she will go back home, tickle her, and she will recount from start to finish when I started. Because at this age, a child learns better and faster. But when the child has grown older, they say you can never straighten a bended stick. Help them now that they are young. Show them the way of the Lord and they will never depart from it. But if you do not, you'll be going to church, they'll be smoking marijuana. And you'll be complaining, look at the kind of child God gave me. No, God gave you a good child, you spoiled the child. Parents, claim your responsibility and help your children. Because secularism is facing them. They have many challenges that face them. They need you to be able to redirect them. But just how many parents have failed in that duty and responsibility? The last that we have is the conflict between hearing and doing. The conflict between hearing and doing. We hear many nice things. Beautiful things that Father says. Father Neil will preach a good homily. Father has really talked. Sometimes we feel like Father read your life yesterday before preaching. Because everything is like, the thing is really touching me. You go, the thing really touched me. I really feel bad. You have heard. The challenge now is doing. And that is where the problem comes. The challenge between hearing and doing. Many of us hear, but when it comes to do, that is where there is a difficulty. Because like I said before, we are faced in a conflict. I know what the church wants and expects of me. But this is where I find myself. This is a practical situation. My job warrants that I do this. It is difficult. As a doctor, you see, I know very well the church says I should, but you start butting. I like to do this work well. I know that I should not give bribe or accept a bribe. But when you start butting, then there is a problem. And that is why we are faced between hearing and doing. But the Lord tells us, only those who hear the word and do it will be able to enter the kingdom of heaven. It is not just about hearing. And that is the challenge that we face during this Lenten time, beloved. You can hear and hear and hear. If you do not do it and put it into practice, then it means nothing. Let us beg God for that grace. This is the second day of our Lenten observance or of our mission. Beg God for that grace. Not to be Christians who only hear, but Christians who hear and do. And that challenge goes to you as an individual. It goes to your family. It goes to your neighborhood. You can never make heaven without your neighbor. Beg one another to support one another, to help one another to grow. And again, like I said, parents, you have lots of work to do to help your children grow. These children need you. They look up to you, for example. They need your guidance. They need your experience. But if you are absent and you let them loose, tomorrow they will hold you responsible and blame you for failing to do the work that you ought to have done. So let us beg God for that grace, that despite the challenges that we face in our Christian life, we may remain strong. We may carry our crosses and move forward, because heaven is our destination. Thank you.